So we're going to open the meeting, and we're going to first go to the Hill Street Cinema 43 Hill Street and 51 Hill Street resolution, which has circulated. Before I motion to vote on this, does anyone have any questions, comments, issues on the board with these two? Amanda.
I do. Page 3, Section 3A, submission of a cross-access easement agreement for vehicular and pedestrian traffic to the adjacent parcel to the west located at 71 Hill Street at a location agreed upon by the planning board. Last meeting, the parties were before us arguing, presenting their view that there should not be cross-access between the hotel and the movie theater. And they were quite adamant and all in agreement. So I'm a little bit surprised to see this here. Can someone explain it to me?
So it's my understanding, and I put it in the preamble, that the comprehensive plan encourages cross-access easements between commercial properties. It's a very, very common site plan element in the commercial world. I've personally seen at least 5, 6, maybe more of them. From my understanding, also, the idea was for emergency services. It'll make both properties safer. And overall, it's just a planning consideration. Alex, if you'd like to elaborate on the planning side of it.
Yeah, it's a very common best practices that commercial properties have their that adjoin each other like this have their parking lots connect to them. It helps with site circulation, and it helps make sure that parking works in the most efficient manner, and that you don't have traffic spilling out to the street that doesn't need to spill out into the street. And there's a little bit of a history with this particular application. That cross-access has existed for about 40 years between these two properties. It was required by the planning board some time ago in the 1980s, and it's been there ever since. A version of the adjoining site had come to the planning board in the past, and your predecessors on this board, I believe in 2022.
I found it September 19, 2022, yes.
Thank you. Had considered this question and found that the cross-access was important, that these sites remain connected as they've been for the past 40 years, and it had been a condition of a previous site plan. So I think the thought is that to be consistent with the previous work of this board, that would continue to be a requirement for these properties.
Have the applicants been made aware of this memo?
Yes, I believe
this was circulated, and I guess I can read it into the record. I did receive an email. Oh, Ed Parker, I believe, is on Zoom tonight, if we'd like to let him in. But I am of the impression that the ownership of 43 does not have an issue with this language, but it'd probably be appropriate of us, if he is available, to discuss it with him.
What about Mr. Bennett, who was quite adamant that it would be used by cars and causing traffic jams through the lot and through the inn, and that would cause people to try and bypass all the corner traffic that's now on Hill Street. It was going to become a shortcut, and that was discussed at length. Mr. Bennett had strong opinion, and that made sense as well, that it will be used that way to bypass traffic. We talked about the La Carreza, the cut through that way would remain open. But it just seems to me that I would expect them to be back and be able to address our position.
We do have the applicant for 43 here. I thank you, Mr. Parker, for making the time to show up. Mr. Bennett, it appears, hasn't shown up. In any event, he's not the applicant tonight. We do have to remember that this is 110's application, or 1100's, application. So
okay, well, they were on the same page with this, so I would like to hear from the applicant, just because we were listening and not presenting our research, which is new to the board tonight.
Well, I did circulate this to you all on Friday.
Yes,
so.
But without being able to hear from the applicant's
Mr. Parker?
response.
We've reviewed the draft also, and I will say two things. One, as you're stating, yes, when we were last before you, also after having discussed it with the neighbors at 71 Hill, there was a desire by both parties to eliminate the cross access if you so deem that to be acceptable. nevertheless, in seeing the draft resolution, and it has always been the 43 Hills perspective that it's, if cross access is going to be required, we're okay with it. So the goal for our side is to move the process forward, and if it is more expedient to do so with the language that's in the resolution, that is fine. The plan that we have submitted to you that you currently have on record currently has it. My understanding was that there may be, I don't know if there's a formal mechanism to allow this, but that there was, that the board would continue to consider whether or not cross-access may be required pending the formal application of 71 Hill. And at that time, when that submission was in front of you with all the facts, you would make a final determination on that. And ideally, the resolution would allow for that flexibility so that you could make a decision after you saw 71 Hill's application, because you haven't received it yet formally, to make that final decision. Meanwhile, somehow allowing us to proceed with the rest of the site work that we would like to engage on the property. So I don't know if that's a possibility or not, but that's, I believe, where we left it last time.
So as to flexibility, what I did draft in, and I believe, Mr. Parker, you've seen this language here. So the actual document affecting the cross-access easement agreement won't be required until prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy or compliance. So they won't have to have that document filed until they're done with work and ready to open for business. So that could, I don't know 71's timeline, but that could buy some time there.
My understanding is that 71 will be in front of the Board of Trustees on Thursday.
That's correct.
And this will be a topic.
Yeah, that is
I
correct.
assume after they're done with the Board of Trustees, they will also come to you.
And also,
But I'm not sure what their overall timeline is.
not to jump in, but also in the spirit of flexibility, I did put at a location to be agreed upon by the planning board. So if there is some sort of change and a shift of where the parties 71 and 43 want the access to be, they can come to the planning board and we can discuss maybe shifting it northward a little bit, and we can drop the meets and bounds into whatever easement agreement is going to be recorded as to where it should go.
That's right.
So
And
does the
then-
board have a comfort level with that, or any questions for me?
And also, Amanda, just to answer your question before about pedestrian safety, one of the best practice ways to mitigate that is by implementing some pedestrian safety mechanisms, which the board should keep in mind when we get a site plan for the adjoining property, like crosswalks or speed tables. And the idea is that if traffic does move between those sites, it's not necessarily a problem if people need to move their car between parking lots, as long as they're doing so at safe speeds. That's not going to cause a danger to anyone.
Well,
So-
of course, pedestrian safety is paramount, but I just
Exactly.
wanted to be sure that the parties who are going to be, represented from 43 and 71 both respond to this idea, since we haven't, I realize that the 71 is pending, but should this be acted upon now, or shall we wait till their application so that this can really
Right.
be a discussion and not a revision or a,
Right.
I don't know if there's sufficient leeway to leave it open. I understand there's some leeway, but what if people begin to use that in an unsafe way and it becomes
Right. just
a traffic jam and emergency services can't get in and it's just a
Well,
bottleneck?
I would speak to emergency services briefly, or at least I placed a call to Dean Mack, the mayor, after the last meeting, because there was some discussion about what his perspective was, and I wanted to validate that. And he told me, as far as 43 Hill is concerned, there are already 2 entry points besides the cross access from 71. He has no concerns with that, and he also said that there had been discussions with 71 that included elimination of cross access, and that he had given them kind of direction as to how they would need to lay out their site if they wanted to eliminate it to satisfy the emergency vehicles requirement. So I think that he could be satisfied without the cross access for safety purposes.
Who?
Dean,
The fire marshal.
The fire marshal, okay.
yes, sorry,
And-
the fire marshal.
And to answer the question on procedure, so right now the board only has an application from this owner. So would probably be prudent was to review this application, and then when you review 71, should you get that opportunity to be consistent, or if something were to change, this way this is drafted allows the board that flexibility and allows the applicants to come to an agreement about what makes sense between the two site plans. But it probably wouldn't make sense to hold up these owners for an application that hasn't been filed yet.
Exactly.
Certainly,
I mean,
I wouldn't want
I
to do
did-
that, but I did want to make sure, because this is going a different direction than they were advocating the last time we saw them, that we were all on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's possible to change the language in the draft to say, vehicular cross-access or elimination of the vehicular cross-access, to provide full flexibility if there is the potential to eliminate it, which would be the preference of both sides. I know. I just don't know if that will be ultimately what you decide after you see all the facts from 71. But suffice it to say, and I appreciate you helping us try to speed along, whatever it is that allows us to move forward most expeditiously, we would appreciate, even if that means there needs to be a revision in the future.
Yeah, let me comment on that. I think we're very sensitive to moving this along as quickly as possible, and I think the fastest way to that goal is to leave the language as it is. And I'd also like to sort of telegraph the village's view on cross-access. And I think cross-access between the parking lot at the theater and the proposed development of the Southampton Inn is a high-profile, important issue to the mayor and trustees. And that is something that they feel is very important to them. So that view will obviously weigh heavily on the planning board's consideration, but I want to be very clear, open kimono, full disclosure as to kind of what the thinking is on this issue in order to manage expectations. So while I think we'll leave it as it is, and I'd like to make a motion to adopt this resolution in just a minute or two on that one, but I did want to make sure that that was on your radar screen. So we'll see how this unfolds. We sort of reserve the right to go either way on this as things unfold, but in order to get you where you'd like to be, I think the best way to do that is just move forward on this resolution. We heard what everyone said last week. I think some on the planning board, it sounds like, agreed with that perspective. Others on the planning board did not agree with that perspective. So, rather than debate that and delay forward progress on your application, that's what I'm advocating. Any other comments on this from any other board members? You wanted to get something on the record, didn't you?
I will reluctantly vote in favor, subject to the words "to be agreed upon by the planning board," because I was a member of the planning board when there was a huge fight over this issue a few years ago.
Yep.
I have experience with it. I have 40 years of use of the access. I remember a little differently than your history why it was even ever an issue after the Irving was torn down and the development of the inn, and it will be agreed upon this. However, the village trustees are in charge. What they say is going to happen to the inn, we don't get to we don't tell the village trustees that they're wrong. Their issue controls.
Exactly.
And we, as they say in the Pentagon, we just lift our leg over it and say, hey, village trustees, you did a good job. It's subject to the village trustees for this multi-purpose resort hotel.
Right.
So if they claim it's a resort, we don't have a vote, really.
Right.
We may pretend, but what they say counts, and they're going before them shortly, and they'll get it resolved. And that's it.
I agree with you up to the point of lifting your leg.
Well, I wanted to tell you kind of the way it works with those damn trustees. If they say this is a good idea, they control for these special applications.
Okay. Everybody,
I'm good.
so far so good? So far so good?
And
Motion,
just a note to, and John put this in there, there's a note about there that references the guidance and the comprehensive plan
yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
consideration.
That's
I believe, and just for housekeeping, did we close the public hearing on this, or are we doing so tonight?
Let's do that tonight. So I'll make a motion to
Just in
close,
case.
the public hearing. So a motion to close the public hearing on both 43 and 51 Hill Street.
Second,
Second, all in favor? Aye.
closed.
Okay. And I'd also like to make a motion to adopt Mr. Borquin's resolution as drafted for both 51 and 43. Second?
Second.
Second, all in favor of the motion?
Well, just for housekeeping and for clarity, there's two separate resolutions. One is for the 43, and another is for 51.
So, John, do you want me to separate them into two different votes? Or can
Probably
we-
wouldn't hurt. For
Okay,
some reason, I
so-
don't have a copy of my 51, but you should
All right,
have.
let's make a motion on 51 first. Is there a
Or
second?
40. This would be 43. I'm sorry.
43 first.
43.
Yeah, 43 first.
Which is a planning board file 2202.
Okay, motion for 43, resolution, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, second motion for 51.
Yep.
Second, Alan, thank
If
you.
the board has
no,
any
that-
questions for me before.
Any questions
That's
on
fine. That doesn't have cross access in it. That's fine.
It does, for
Mhm.
pedestrian purposes.
for pedestrian?
Vehicular,
Yeah, we,
Pedestrian.
we like pedestrian
is fine,
purposes.
No vehicles.
So just for the board's clarity, I'm not sure if you all picked up on it, and Mr. Parker too. I don't know if you saw it in the resolution, but there will also be a require. There also is a requirement prior to C of O that there will be a document recorded allowing for pedestrian access between the two premises,
Pedestrian.
which I believe had already been discussed.
Pedestrian.
I don't
Yes.
think there was any, everyone agreed to that.
Yeah.
That's
Amanda's.
So if the board has questions for me, then
That's pedestrian. You're right.
exactly.
You're right.
So any questions on 51? No? Okay, so we have a motion on the table.
Second?
Second, thank you, Amanda. All in favor?
Aye.
Yep,
Okay.
and that's planning board file 2203. And John, would you let the applicant know what else they need to do in compliance? Is there
Sure.
an affidavit? And then I think we also need them to sign the copy of the
So
site plan.
I can send you also a detailed email about this, but to be completed prior to our signature of the map, we just need to have copies of the documents which you've already submitted with language which I can provide to you printed thereon, and your client has to sign them so as to attest that they will abide by the planning board's conditions. You also have to file a notarized affidavit, which I can also give you a template for that. Those are the only two things that you need to do prior to the signature of our map. That's our approval. And then prior to the issuance of the C of O and or C of C, so prior to the end of your work, you will need to submit and have recorded the cross-access easement language and the pedestrian easement language, which I don't know if you're represented by counsel, but I can, if you're not, I can help you with the proposed language or the presentation of that.
Okay. Yeah, we do have counsel on the team, but if you have something for us to look at, that would be welcome.
Understood. Excellent.
Okay. So, we're going to leave the vehicular cross-access in for now. We'll let this play out. I think we'll consider it when
71.
71 actually comes in front of the planning board. We'll see how the trustees and the mayor treat this at Thursday's hearing. And, until then, keep an open mind, but I did want to make sure you were aware that it's not it's still a question mark for the planning board.
Understood.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine for us.
Okay, all good. Thank you. I also
Thank you.
I also apologize. We started the meeting without introducing our newest member, Hannah Abrams. So welcome to the planning board, Hannah.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Hello.
Glad to have you
Oh, yeah.
here. So I apologize.
Glad to be here.
I apologize for not doing that first off. Next on the agenda is 36 Windmill Lane, which is Shippey's. Everyone read the resolution on this one? Any questions on this one?
Yeah, Council Workman, there was one draft of it I reviewed, in the middle of some screaming children, which said something, there was no change in the seating. Those words dropped out, which is important because there will be a change in the seating when they add the second story.
So yes, I see.
Maybe
Where are we
maybe
here?
maybe it dropped out of the second draft, but I commend you for that.
Here it is. It is page 1. It's at the second to last paragraph, Mr. McFarland, of page 1. Whereas it is noted that the
Low number
proposed
seats.
site plan.
Hey, if you do the second story up in the back, there'll be more seats.
No, that'll be a storage area. They're not proposing any increase in seating at this time because that would increase their parking requirement.
Ooh, they dropped that out. It
Yes.
was seats. It was going to be a bar and seats at one point.
Not on the latest plan.
Thank you. I withdraw my observation.
I think that's going to be stage 3, which is coming any day now.
Yeah, we're anticipating, as they've indicated, a future phase that will have an expansion of the restaurant footprint that will include an increase in
okay.
seating, at which point they'll have to seek parking relief or waivers.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Alex. That's where the health department, the big review for health would come in, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So a motion to approve the resolution for 36 Windmill Lane. Anyone care to second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving right along.
We got
So
Connemara.
Connemara is adjourned to September 16th.
Yep.
No one here from 865 Merrick, it appears.
So this application is currently pending before the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So Alex,
That's
should we?
That's CBA.
Is that
That's right.
Connemara?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm talking about 865 Merrick Holdings LLC at 22 Windmill Lane.
So Alex, would you like to a motion to move that to our next meeting, or do you want to go further out than that?
I think it might make sense to adjourn it to the next meeting, and then we'll see if there's any update. Can always
Okay.
adjourn it further if
So
necessary.
moved.
Second, thank you. All in favor to move 865 Merrick to our next meeting, which is August 6th,
I have it as August 19th.
19th. Thank you. Second, thank you. All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Chair, did we move Connemara to that date also?
Oh, so
Connemara's
that's already been adjourned to
there.
this
It's
meeting.
September 16th.
September 16th?
Yeah. Next one is Brian Kelly, which is 20 to 30 County Road 39A.
This one is also actively pending before the Zoning Board of Appeals for relief of required buffers and also for a zoning line boundary modification.
So let's move it to the next meeting.
I think
So
that's
motion to
reasonable.
move Brian Kelly to our next meeting, August 19th. Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
74 White Street. Do you know anything about that one?
So this application was approved by the Zoning Board. I understand they're currently pending their necessary approvals with the Health Department.
Okay, so
By the
we'll,
health department?
By the Health Department.
yeah, so we'll move this one to our next meeting.
Yeah,
All right, so motion to move 74 White Street to our next meeting. Second, Alan,
I'll
thank you.
second that one.
Yeah, thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's a drainage problem.
Yeah,
It's a hill onto Windmill Lane.
yeah, that's that doctor's
And
office.
it's-
Yeah.
Everything, Windmill Lane is the main flood zone contributor to Agawam, so everything is important as to where it goes on Windmill Lane.
Okay. Alex, do you want to introduce that policy change?
Sure. So I provided for the board a draft of a planning board submission policy. And the goal of this is to codify the board's procedures and expectations for materials that are submitted to the board, either for public hearings or for work session review. And the idea behind this is a lot of the different land use boards over time have had different policies and requirements. And so the boards have been encouraging them to codify their procedures to alleviate any confusion. So the zoning board recently adopted their own version of this, which kind of codified their longstanding expectation about submissions. The planning board has never really had a specific policy about submissions, which has sometimes made things a little bit challenging for applicants to know what the expectations are. So what this would do is mirror the policy that the zoning board adopted and also what's longstanding ARB policy, which I'm going to ask them to adopt in similar language. So what this would do is make sure that anything that's submitted to this board the building department gets enough copies of that we can provide to the board members, that we always have a copy available for the file, and that we have copies for the digital file that we upload to the Dropbox. So this ensures that no matter how anybody accesses the file, whether that's myself or counsel or consultants or members of the public who we're required to make things available to, that everybody has the same information. And it also spells out the board's expectations about timeliness, so board members have enough time to review things before the meeting, and also to be fair to members of the public and the board's consultants to be able to view things in advance. So what this says, it spells out what's considered a complete application, because you can't review something that we don't have enough copies to distribute to you. And what would it allow the board to do is if something is submitted at the meeting or in a manner that doesn't give us enough time to distribute to the board members, the board would reserve the right to adjourn the application and adjourn testimony to a future meeting so that everyone, including the public, has an opportunity to review what's been submitted. And we make sure that our files and records are all up to date and complete.
Very
May I
good.
ask a question?
Sure?
I
Tuesday of
noted
the
Tuesday at noon, the week prior to
Yeah.
a Monday hearing for the applicant.
Yes.
But for the neighbors or other interested parties, it can be submitted no later than 12 p.m. on the meeting or hearing date. Why such a short leash? Are you concerned that they don't hear about it and so we don't want that to penalize them? Or what was the thinking there?
Right. So typically what the boards do is they require the applicants to provide documents, and it's because those documents are typically plans that have to be reviewed. So we ask for those on a Tuesday, and then we tell board members they can pick up materials on Thursday at noon. So that gives us internally 2 days to make sure that everything is distributed where it needs to be. We typically give neighbors and members of the public a little bit more time to submit comments in advance. Those are typically emails or letters where they're giving input, and so we just ask for those on noon of the hearing day, just so we have enough time to make sure that they're in your mailboxes, so they're on the dais for today when you come to the meeting. And after that point, we would tell people just be prepared to bring it to the meeting themselves. There's no requirement necessarily that members of the public submit something in writing. They could come and deliver testimony orally just like they do now. But we just ask for, if they are going to drop something off, that they give us enough copies to give to you and enough time for us to make sure that we have them ready for you.
And that's enough generally.
Yeah, typically our offices close about 4 o'clock. So if we have it in by noon that day, we have enough time to make sure that we have enough copies, that we put it in the mailboxes, and usually things that are submitted after that Thursday when you picked up your materials, we'll leave for you on the dais, so you'll have a copy of it when you come sit down at the meeting.
And then they will have some notification that if it's not in writing, or how will they know that if they don't put it in writing, they have to appear in public in
So
person?
if the board were to adopt this policy, what we would do is we'd put it on the building department website, and it would be recorded as part of the minutes for this meeting, so everybody is on notice about what the expectations are. And if somebody comes in to our office after that time, we would say, you probably would be better off bringing this to the meeting, because we can't guarantee that we're going to have it ready for the board tonight. Although sometimes if staff can accommodate that, we always try to be accommodating, when we can within reason.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So has everyone had a chance to read this, digested questions? Do
The
people
procedure thing?
do we want to adopt this tonight now, or give people more time to digest?
Yeah, I don't care. As long as we get it before we sit down at 5:30,
Yeah.
we can guess better.
Okay. So
So
if no one objects, then why don't we make a motion to adopt this
I think
right now? So a motion to adopt this new policy as Alex described. Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, great. So
Alex.
we'll have a copy signed, and we'll get it filed with the clerk with the minutes, and we'll make it available for the public.
Yeah, good, thank you. So a little bit of a housekeeping issue here. If you all recall, we approved the BuzzChew application. They had 45 days to get us an affidavit, and John, correct me if I don't explain this correctly, but to provide a signed affidavit saying that they had complied with all of the requirements contained in the resolution and approval. 45 days has elapsed. We don't have a signed affidavit.
We do have, just to give full background, what we did ask for was a copy of the site plan with the compliance statement on it and signed by the applicant, the notarized affidavit indicating compliance, and the amended declaration of covenants and restrictions with the applicant's signature for recording. I have received 2 of those things. I reviewed them prior to this meeting. We do have the signed and stamped site plan, and we also have the amended declaration of covenants and restrictions. Just as a side note, now that I've approved that, which I'll telegraph to the applicant so they are reminded, they have 45 days from my approval to record that. What we do not have is the notarized affidavit, so it's up to the board's discretion if you'd like to give them a little extension to get that into me.
So personally, I'm very much of a dot your i's, cross your t's kind of guy. If we want to draw a hard line in the sand here because they didn't meet the 45-day requirement, they would have to go through the entire process again. I'm willing to give them 5 days to get what they promised to us, right? But if they can't get that to us within 5 days, they've got to get back in line on this stuff, is my view. Anyone else have a different view before I?
No, I just say if you can't, for some reason, get in touch with them 5 days from them actually receiving notice, I think that's fair.
Have you noticed them on this yet? Have you called them or have we noticed them?
Not as of tonight,
Okay.
aside from the resolution itself.
Okay, I think, Amanda, thank you. That's a good idea. So I'd like to make a motion that, we'll provide notice. They've got 5 days from that notice to get us what they promised us that they would get us within 45 days.
Is this for Mr. Chu?
Yes, this is Mr. Chu.
Mr. Chu.
Yeah, I don't think he's
5
doing
work
it.
days,
Yeah, 5 work days. I don't think
business
business
days.
I just wonder who's
the council here is
sloughing it off.
Is-
Council makes motion
is
look like
Gil,
progress.
Gil Martin, right?
Oh, no, but.
Council is Gil Martin of Greenberg
Oh, yeah,
Trowig,
yeah.
yes.
No, I know about council, but I wonder who needs the affidavit. It's Chu himself. This is a contest. This is an issue in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
But, this is a partial resolution. This
Right.
won't happen again if you're active as long as I hope you are. This will happen again.
okay. So, motion to give them 5 business
Business
days to get
Yeah.
what they were required to extend that deadline, so they don't have to get back in
As a
line
courtesy.
as a courtesy.
Yeah.
But John, when you're contacting them, let them know they've got 5 business days. Otherwise, they got to be back.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
I think John can
second?
be scary when he wants to be.
Yep.
Second.
Seconded.
Thank you. All in favor?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're a generous man.
Thank you. We've got some outstanding minutes that were circulated, the June 17th and July 1st. I think we're ready to approve those minutes unless anyone objects. So motion to approve the minutes as distributed from our June 17th meeting. Second, thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to approve the July 1st minutes as circulated. Second, thank you, Amanda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next meeting is Monday, August 19th, and the meeting after that is Monday, September 16th. Any other
Oh,
questions?
September 6th. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, any other comments, questions from anyone? Anything anyone would like to discuss? The one thing I'd like to discuss is the board was promised comps for Fowler Farm for this ag reserve. I have yet to see anything from any council. Either you or John Bennett also promised us copies of these things. We've been asking for this stuff for weeks.
Well, I have provided the one comp for, correct me if I'm wrong, Lumber Lane in Bridgehampton.
That's not one of the comps we want. We want the agreement for the topping thing that was just done.
Yep.
And we want the one for the Halsey Farm kitty corner from Fowler Farm and the Halsey on the other side of Phillips Pond. And, I don't mean to, we've been asking for this stuff a long
Glenn
time.
Halsey used
And
to.
I'm starting to get frustrated because it's really
It's
important.
Glenn Halsey.
It's really important. We all want to see it.
Yep.
And it's literally been 2 or 3 months and we still don't have anything. So
I'll do some sleuthing and I'll contact Mr. Bennett.
please, because, I know you've looked and had a difficult time. John said we need to get everybody focused on this because it is a major concern.
The topping one I have looked for, and
the-
I was unable to find it for the
John-
board's edification
John
on
Bennett
the
said-
NICEF system.
He said he could
Or
get
not
it.
on NICEF, on the GIS
Yeah,
system.
so if we don't see these things appear soon, I think it's going to be problematic.
Can I ask what the status is with the easement? Have we had any new
That's a good
information
question.
about what is happening with various other alternatives?
I can give you an update on that. I don't know if you've heard this or not. John and I, our presence was requested in front of the F&C trustees at one of their meetings in an executive session.
Yep.
And we went in and explained how important this was to the village. They said it's very important to them. And the chair of the F&C trustees said that he would personally take up this effort and contact the owner of the property where that
Is it
easement
Mr.
makes,
Siegel?
yeah, where that easement makes the most
Yeah.
sense.
Bippy
That was,
Siegel.
John, a couple of weeks ago. I have not gotten an update on the
Is
status
that
of
something
those
you would bring into
I
conversations.
haven't
this,
seen anything.
this room so we can share in this
It's
updates?
sort of out of our, yes, as soon as we get news, we'll
Oh,
keep
yeah.
everybody posted, but it's kind of out of our hands because it's an F&C issue to get that easement. Not, it's important to our approval,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
But
it's
the
important.
actual-
It's very important,
The
as we talked
actual
about.
mechanics of negotiating that is up to the F&C.
Yes, so we're on hold until we know more about this.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it was one of the things I wanted to call Scott
Horowitz.
Horowitz.
Well, just to
and Joe McLaughlin, who are kind of the point people on this, and see where it is. And if I hear anything, I'll give you guys a
Just to jump in though, on hold is actually a good way to phrase it. We haven't received a preliminary plat submission, have we?
That's correct.
Okay.
So there's currently no pending application for the site, but the applicant has a certain amount of time to file one.
Yeah. So Alex, correct me. They have 6 months, is it?
I'd have to check the language in the code, but I believe
Okay.
that's correct.
But they do have a turnaround time in which they have to bring their preliminary plat application. So at the moment, we are, in so many words, on hold.
But on hold does not mean that nobody's working on it, right? So it was overwhelming consensus among the F&C trustees. Is that a fair characterization, John? Yeah. That this is important. That everybody's going to work to get this. It makes the most sense for an easement to do it there. So they're working on it.
And
And
when was that meeting?
what was that? A couple weeks ago. It was between our last meeting and this meeting.
I would say approximately 3 weeks.
Yeah. So I think it was right after our last meeting. Anything else?
Just to note that there's no early September meeting because of Labor Day. So the next meetings, as you noted, are August 19th and September 16th.
Yep, perfect. If there's nothing else and no other business in front of the planning board, I'd like to make a motion to close our meeting tonight.
So moved.
So moved. All in favor? Thank you.
The ayes have it.
Thanks.
Okay, we're good.